Okay, so it's time to put some captions on our images, and we're going to use a spell check in Google Docs in order to make sure that we don't have any errors. So you need to create a Google Doc here in your turn-in folder. It's not going to go inside the project folder because then we would rename that old and it would be lost when we drag it to old stuff. So until we're finalized, then we will have this just here in the turn-in folder. So this document is just going to be a simple spell checker for us, and each of the captions is going to be in here, so if you have a spelling error, then it is going to help you with it. If you don't see, I would actually make an intentional mistake and turn on the spelling suggestions because it's not always starting off that way, I'm noticing. So what we're going to be doing is creating some titles to go over these images, calling them captions. If you have everything keyframed, then that's where you're supposed to be right now. If you didn't get to the transitions, it's no big deal. You're probably still in the editing mode like this. Just switch over to the effects workspace, locate the video transition called cross dissolve, and just drop it in between the pictures. So it's literally just takes a few seconds to completely catch up with that. There's only a dozen pictures in most of yours, so that makes for 9 of these transitions, and I'm already done. Here we go. Alright, so going back to places, I need to put a caption on this picture. I can see that I probably want it to be down here in this area so it doesn't cover up the more interesting parts of the map. Now I also want to have a place to store them. In the same way that all our images, when we're done placing them, we can just close that up. We want to create a bin over here that is going to be a folder basically. Now if you're over in some other area and the focus is here, you won't be able to do a file new bin because this isn't where they're created. So it's actually preferable to use this icon, a button, making a new bin. I'm just going to call it titles, and all the titles will go in there, so I'm going to be on it when I create a new title. You can go to File, New Title. There's the Control-T shortcut, or you really should learn this is the Create New Items, and there's a new title. Now I want you to number it and name it so that we can tell which picture it goes over. So this is the first one. I'm going to call it 01 Honduras. Now there are 2 ways of putting text on a screen. One of them is the wrong way. If you just click and start typing, then it may look like it's going to work, but if I say, oh no, that needs to be bigger, notice what happens to the text. It actually goes off the screen. So instead, we're going to use what I call a corral technique, where we use the text tool, but we draw a box where we want the text to stay inside of. Now since I'm using the lower right-hand corner, I'm actually going to draw it where I want it to be. And I'm actually going to do it right this time. I'm going to say copy, Control-C, go to Premiere, go in here, and Control-V paste. Now this particular font is very large, so I can't see all of that, but now I can see all of the words. Now this very light color is very hard to see on this background. So there are a couple things that may help. One of them is if you have a bold version of a font, then you really need to use it. There are also other fonts. If you click in the font box and then use your up and down arrows, you can quickly kind of cycle through these until you find one that you like, make it bold, and we're in business. Now down here in the lower right hand corner, we'd probably want to right justify this and maybe bring it down in size a little bit. If you want to adjust the corral afterwards, you can go back to your arrow tool and make it bigger or smaller. So this legibility is very, very poor, so we're going to do something to make it easier to read. One thing would be to change the fill. So if we make it black, then it's a lot easier to read. But that's not enough to make sure it's easy to read no matter what's happening in the background. I'm going to change the fill. Actually, I'm going to change the fill to this gray to make it impossible to read. So it's the same color as the background. So what can I do to make it visible? Well, this is what I call the shadow with zero distance technique. It creates a glow around your words. So you turn on shadow, you increase the opacity to 100, and you decrease the distance to 0. If you have it doubling your letters with a distance like that, it makes it harder to read. So with this technique, we go right behind it, and then we grow size and spread until we get a nice glowy effect that makes it very easy to read. Even though the color is exactly the same as the background, I can read it. I'm going to go ahead and change this color to white, because white with a black glow is the most contrast we could get. And I'm going to position it so it doesn't cover up the name of the country. That way people at least have a chance. I'm just saying here. So that may not be the most informative kind of caption, but at least it says it on the map itself. Since it's already got a name, we can just close. We take the title and we put it over the picture. And we can watch and make sure we put it in a place that's not going to obscure anything. Don't worry about animating it yet. We'll do that next. But right now, we just want to put the text visible in the right spot. Next thing is to simply reuse that title. So go to the new picture, double click on the title, either on the timeline or there, and we're going to take the second caption, Control-C copy, go back to Premiere, and paste it in there, Control-V paste. Now you'll notice I'm going to have to make some adjustments, maybe make it a little bit bigger, was born on Guam, maybe put it in the lower left-hand corner since there's something to see there. This is a bit on the large side, so maybe that is going to be a good spot. Once I close that, I've got, oh, I just changed the same one, so that's not going to work. There's a button that we're going to use. Let me show you again. Double click and make a new title based on this one. It's this button right here. You got to remember to do that each time. You just say, okay, so this is the Guam one, and then you go inside, Control-A select and paste, and now we have a second title based on the first one. So I'll make those changes again, left justify and decrease the size a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to ask you to put these titles in a staggered formation to start with, because if we put any transitions, we don't want it to actually go from one to the next. We want each caption to move independently. All right, let's make another one. Wait. First, go to the picture, open up the title, copy the text you want, and then make a new title based on the old one. So this is Colorado. Control-A, Control-V. Is it really a word? Probably not. But there we go. Ain't Colorado beautiful? So I can put that back on the video one, and these are independent. Let me move over a little bit more and make the final one. So I'm going to double click on Colorado. I'm going to create a new one called Virginia. And I'm going to get my Virginia text. And I have nothing against Virginia, but I was there during a really bad hurricane. So that's my caption. Double clicking Control-A, Control-V, and now make some slight adjustments. So I think I'm just going to have it be over here on the left-hand side again, and maybe make it a little bit smaller. You can adjust your corral if you want to. It doesn't really make too much difference in this particular case, but let's take a look at that one. Now this is my dislike. So some people want to make this one look different, and you can use a red for a glow like this. You don't want it for text because red and a lot of other colors are very difficult to read. Now this legibility is not bad because of the font and the size, but we can increase the legibility by using something called a stroke. So right now there are no strokes. I'm going to add an outer stroke, and it puts a thin black line. You can change that color, but usually we want it to be black in this case. And we're going to increase the size of it. If I go overboard, you can see what it's doing, but I'm going to bring it back down so it just helps the legibility. So if I turn the stroke off and on again, you can really see what it does for the legibility of this caption. A lot of times then I say, well, I used up some of the red, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and spread it out a little bit more. And I'm going to put this Virginia into its spot right here. So we've got all 4 captions done in that amount of time.